Hi guys, and welcome to my Abrsm Grade 2 oral tests. Now I'm going to assume for this video that you've already taken your Grade 1 and that you've already done the Grade 1 oral test, which means some of the tests in Grade 2 are not going to need as much explanation. There are just slight extensions of them, or some of the tests are a little bit longer. If for some reason you've skipped Grade 1 and Grade 2 is the first exam that you're going to be taking, I do advise clicking in the oral test playlist and having a watch through the Grade 1 video first. So, Test A. Just like in Grade 1, they're asking you to clap the pulse of a piece of music played by the examiner, still in just 2 or 3 time. Easy. So if you remember, you've got to clap along to the beat of the piece. Be careful, because some people who are doing this for the first time, or when the piece is a little bit more complicated, sometimes repeat the rhythm. Remember, the difference between rhythm and pulse is that the rhythm is a collection of different lengths of notes. So when they're asking you to clap the pulse, they're not asking you to. They're asking you to clap the beat. Bum, ba bum, ba 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 ba. This is the beat. This is what a metronome would do, just like a second hand on a clock. So in the same way, they're asking you to stress the strong beat of the bar, the first beat of the bar. So if it's in 2, we're going strong, weak, and if it's in 3, strong, weak, weak. Again, if you need any more explanation on this test, do go back and look at the Grade 1 video. Let's just do a couple of exercises for you. Not like yoga or anything. I meant tests. You know what I mean. Here we go. So clap along as soon as you can and give a louder clap on the strong beats. Two or 3? It was 3. And let me just remind you at this point, don't forget in the exam, the examiner is going to make you turn around so you can't see the piano, so this is not going to be of any use to you. That's what oral means. It means listening. Okay? So if you haven't done already, make sure you turn around for the tests in this video. Let's have another one. Listening for whether it's in 2 or 3, joining in, clapping with the strong beat as soon as you can. Okay, was that in 2 or 3? It was in 2. Now the purpose of these videos isn't to give you lots and lots and lots of tests. You can do some more tests with your teacher. The point is to make sure that you understand what the tests are, what they're asking you to do, and you've heard what it's going to sound like and what the examiner will say, to save you time of your teacher going through that with you, because it can take some time explaining it, as you'll see from the length of my videos. So here we go, one more. Let's try this one. Was that in 2 or 3? You've got it. It was in 2. So, just like in Grade 1, Test B in Grade 2 is exactly the same. You have to sing 3 phrases as echoes. And they give you the key chord, they give you the starting note, and they go through all the same stuff and count you in 2 bars. And again, don't forget, if you haven't watched the Grade 1 video, if they play it, because it is such a limited amount of notes that they use for these tests, if you find, particularly boys, teenage boys, if you find that it's too high or too low, you can transfer it to the lower octave if that's something that you're comfortable doing, or you can say to the examiner, please can I possibly have it a little bit lower or a little bit higher, because I feel like that's out of my range. And they'll be more than happy to do that. They want you to do well. They want you to get the marks. They don't sit there with the intention of taking marks from you. They want to give you those marks, okay? So let's try a couple of these. Next, I'd like you to sing 3 phrases as echoes. Here is the key chord. And your starting note. 1, 2, 1, 2. don't forget, they don't care about the quality of your singing voice, whether you sound like Freddie Mercury or Taylor Swift. There we go. That'd be a strange duet, wouldn't it? Freddie and Taylor Swift. It'd be pretty awesome, I reckon. Anyway, sorry. Yes, so same kind of thing. Remember, it's not the quality. They just want you to hit the right notes with the right timing. That's all that matters, okay? And I would say that there's not much difference between level-wise between grade 1 and 2. They're not longer. They're still 2 bars. It's a little bit more complicated in that there's a couple more bigger jumps, but nothing that you're probably even going to notice at all. Now, in test C, similar to grade 1, we're having to spot the difference between 2 phrases. The second one is going to be changed. Before in grade 1, they changed the pitch, and we just had to say, we didn't have to recognise that it was the pitch that had changed, we just had to say whether we thought it was near the beginning or the end of the test. So now, this is one of the tests that has taken quite a big jump, to be honest. So what's going to happen is, it could change either in pitch or it could change in rhythm. Okay, so being the note lengths. So I think the pitch one's a little bit easier to spot, and they're not asking you this time whether it was near the beginning or near the end. All they're going to ask you is, was that a pitch or a rhythm change? And if it was a pitch change, for example, how did it change? So you would just need to say there was a note that was higher or lower than the first example. Or with the rhythm, there's 2 options. You can either describe what the change is. So you might say there was a note that was made much longer, and before that there was one that was made shorter. Remember, with rhythm, if you're describing it, it's not just one note that's changed. In order for there to be the correct amount of beats in a bar, if you've got a minim and a crotchet that adds up to 3 beats, and you make that crotchet into a minim, a 2-beat note, you've now got 4 beats in a bar that should only have 3. So what will happen is, if that second note has changed and been made longer, the first one will have been made shorter, and that could happen the other way around. The other rhythm that commonly occurs at this level is that you might have notes that are even, that are equally played, like that, and they might add the second time what we call a dotted rhythm, where you hear that long, short, and then going on to whatever comes next. Bomb, ba bomb. Bit more kind of like march-like, isn't it? They may also do it the other way around, as the first playing, and then, in which case you could say the first time there wasn't a dotted rhythm and the second time there was. The alternative way to answer this is that you can clap it. So you could say, you don't have to clap the entire thing, you just have to clap the bit that's changed. So for example, if all I played to you was this, here's the second one, you would say it was the rhythm that changed, and it went from to. So that's all you have to do if you're going to respond with clapping. Okay, so it's up to you, whichever one you find easier, and it might vary from test to test. So let's have a go at this one. So again, now I'll play a phrase twice, but with a change in either the pitch or rhythm the second time. Tell me what the difference was. Here's the key chord and the tonic. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now with the change. So just pause it for a second and think, was it rhythm or pitch? So whichever one you thought it was, how did you think it changed? So the answer to this one was actually it changed in rhythm. And towards the end, instead of going like I did the first time, nice even notes, it went to the dotted rhythm. So again, you could have said it went and changed to, or you could say it started with even notes and then we had a dotted rhythm included in the second playing. Okay, let's try another one. Here's the key chord and the the tonic. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And now with the change. So you've got to think whether that was pitch or rhythm. That's a slightly trickier one to get, that one actually. And don't forget, it's not the end of the world if you need to ask the examiner, politely of course, if they wouldn't mind playing it again for you. So the change in that one was actually pitch, and there was a note that was played higher. Because at the beginning, originally it went... Yeah, we kind of kept going back to that same note, didn't we? In fact, we had 3 of the same note. But the second time, it jumped up. Let's just do one more. Key chord. Tonic. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now with the change. So that was rhythm. And again, we had this situation where it went from even notes to the dotted rhythm. Okay, and again, you can express that by going, it started, and change to easy. They can be tricky, these. Sometimes you just can't hear where the change is. I feel like, particularly with the pitch. And sometimes it's really obvious. So again, if you're not sure, ask them to play it again. Obviously, once they've played it to you again, and if you're still not sure, this is the point where we just guess. It's 50-50, isn't it? It's pitch or rhythm. And then whichever one you say, if it's pitch and you have no idea, you're going to just have to say pitch, it went higher, or pitch, it went lower, and hope that you get it right. Same with the rhythm. You know that there's really only 2 things that could possibly change. We could be going from a straight rhythm to a dotted, or a dotted back to straight, or we might have a note that's lengthened, in which case there's going to be a note next to it that's been shortened, or a note could have been shortened, so then the note after it has been lengthened. Finally, moving on to the test D, the final test. Same thing, we've got listen to a piece of music and answer some questions. So on this occasion, for this grade, we've got to do about dynamics again. We've got to look at loud and quiet playing and whether it's sudden or gradual changes. We're looking at the articulation, which is whether we're playing smooth or detached or staccato, if you know the fancy word. And then the other thing that they're going to ask you about is tempo, which is about the speed. So they're going to be asking you whether the speed of the piece stayed the same, got faster, or became slower at any point. Okay. Now you've got to be careful that you don't think of the speed getting faster or slower as changing from playing crotchets to quavers. A lot of people do this and say that it's got faster, and it hasn't. What we're thinking of in your head as you're listening to this, once it's started playing, you need to be trying to clap along the beat like you do in that first test, just very quietly to yourself, and that's what you're looking at, seeing if it changes. Okay, if this happens, that hasn't got quicker. I'm just going from crotchets to quavers to semiquavers. The value of the notes have got shorter. If I was speeding it up, it'd be really, really obvious. Okay, so just as soon as they start, tap that pulse so you can see if it stays the same. And at this grade, they should make it pretty obvious that it's got slower or it's got faster. So they're not going to ask you about all of those things. They're going to ask you about either dynamics or articulation, and then they're going to ask you always about the tempo. But for the purpose of practicing, I'm just going to ask you about them all. Okay? If you can do all of them, you can do it without one of them. Here we go. Listen to this piece and answer some questions for me. In the actual exam, they will say, which one they're going to ask you questions on. So, like I said, it is going to be between dynamics and articulation. So they will say, listen to this piece, and I'll ask you about dynamics or articulation. Jazz hands. No, they'll ask you about jazz hands. So, but like I say, we're going to just do all of them. So listen for everything. Here we go. Where was the quietest part of the music? I don't know about you, but I think it was in the middle. Did the change from quiet to loud playing happen sudden or gradually? Gradually. At the beginning, were the notes smooth or detached? Definitely. Detached, weren't they? They definitely weren't smooth. Was there any change in the speed of the music, or did it always stay the same? Did you hear it? Just in case you didn't, listen to the second line. I hope it was pretty obvious towards the end there that it definitely got slower. Let's try another one. Here we go. So, have a listen to this, and I'm going to ask you all the questions. Why not? Where was the loudest part of the piece? And the quietest? It wasn't a very loud piece anyway, but where was the loudest part? I think it was kind of in the middle as it built up towards the... And then I would say that the quietest part was definitely at the end. Did those changes in loud and quiet playing happen suddenly or gradually? Definitely gradually. Did the music mainly have smooth or detached notes? Definitely wasn't detached, was it? It was smooth. Very nice piece of music. And was there any change to the speed? Did you hear it at the end? It was quite subtle in this one. It did get a little bit slower, but it was a sneaky one. You've got to listen really, really hard in that. Okay, I'm going to give you one more of those because I'm going to try and find one that's got a few different bits and bobs in it. Okay, here's the final test for you. Where was the loudest part of the piece? I would say it's somewhere near the beginning. We had this situation, didn't we? It's like an echo. Well, it's the opposite of an echo actually because it started quietly. And did the change from quiet to loud playing near the beginning happen suddenly or gradually? Well, I've just given you another opportunity to hear it, so we know that it was suddenly done. Was the beginning played with smooth or detached notes? Smooth. Was there any change in the speed of the music or did it stay the same throughout? Did you hear it? Hopefully I made it as obvious as possible. It got a lot faster. So well done.